Breaking through the upper limit problem is not just an exercise in awareness. It is an act of courage. Because to surpass the internal limits that keep you trapped in emotional mediocrity, you will have to let go of the identity you have built up to this point. And this will inevitably bring fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of not being able to sustain the new reality. Fear of leaving behind the version of yourself that learned to survive, but never to thrive. Gay Hendricks is emphatic in stating that this process is not just about removing blocks, but about developing the capacity to sustain a new level of life. He writes, "The only problem you need to solve is your upper limit problem. Solve that one, and everything else falls into place." This statement may seem exaggerated, but it is not. Because when you deactivate the programming that prevents you from receiving and maintaining the best in life, all areas begin to reorganize around a new axis, the axis of abundance. Transcending this limit requires, above all, a willingness to feel good. It seems simple, but most people are not emotionally prepared to sustain long periods of happiness, success, and peace. Hendricks challenges, how long can you really feel happy without finding a worry to occupy yourself? How long can you remain in love, in a stable relationship, before you start to doubt, question, or provoke instability? How long do you allow yourself to prosper financially before creating a crisis, losing focus, or sabotaging yourself? The mind, accustomed to suffering, sees peace as a threat. The body, conditioned to stress, finds relaxation strange. The soul, trained to please, fears disturbing with its fullness. Therefore, the first step to transcend the limit is to make a new pact with yourself. The commitment to allow yourself more love, more money, more health, more success. And not just in isolated moments, but as a new baseline of your existence. Hendricks proposes a simple yet profound exercise. Adopt an expansion mantra. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. This phrase, repeated with intention, begins to reprogram your mind to accept the extraordinary as part of the routine, not as an exception. It signals to your unconscious that it is safe to grow, it is safe to receive, it is safe to live well, even if no one around you has done so before. But merely repeating words is not enough. You must sustain the emotion behind them. Feel worthy, feel prepared, and most importantly, feel responsible for sustaining this new level without guilt, without fear, without self-sabotage. Of course, there will be resistance. The ego will try to maintain the status quo. Old patterns will emerge forcefully. But now you already know what is at stake. And more than that, you know that this resistance is a sign that you are on the right path. In the next part, we will explore practical tools to help you consolidate this transformation process. Techniques that can be applied in daily life to detect, neutralize, and replace self-sabotaging patterns with habits of expansion and emotional stability. Because recognizing the problem is just the beginning. True change begins in practice. Knowing that you self-sabotage is a significant breakthrough, but it's not enough. Self-sabotage is cunning, disguised, integrated into daily life. Therefore, to truly break the upper limit problem, more than awareness is needed. Deliberate action and practical tools that enable mental and emotional reprogramming are essential. Gay Hendricks offers a series of strategies that assist in this process, simple yet extremely effective techniques when applied with consistency and honesty. The first is monitoring internal language. Every negative thought, every unnecessary worry, every harsh judgment against oneself is a subtle form of self-sabotage. Hendricks recommends cultivating the ability to notice these thoughts the moment they arise. Then, consciously interrupt them. The goal is not to fight against them, but to replace them with expansive affirmations. He proposes the daily use of a powerful mantra. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. Repeating this type of affirmation is not an empty ritual. It is training, a way to program the limbic system to accept and sustain pleasure, success, and emotional stability as normal states of existence. Another essential tool is the use of conscious breathing. Hendricks quotes a phrase from Fritz Perls that perfectly summarizes the relationship between fear and expansion. Fear is excitement without the breath. The paralyzing fear is, in fact, poorly channeled excitement. When you breathe deeply, instead of repressing the feeling, you transform fear into creative energy. This means that the discomfort of growing, of allowing yourself more, can be transmuted, not avoided. Whenever you feel anxiety while moving forward, breathe, expand, embrace the discomfort as a sign of progress. The third practice is mindfulness of micro-sabotages, small behaviors that in isolation seem harmless, like postponing an important commitment, saying yes when you meant to say no, eating without hunger, intentionally losing focus, are expressions of the upper limit problem. They indicate that you are drifting away from your zone of genius, as Hendricks defines it. Your job is to detect these patterns and replace them day by day with decisions aligned with your expansion. But perhaps the most powerful of the tools is the commitment to truth. This means stopping the justification of your limits, stopping the repetition of phrases like, "This is too much for me, I can't handle it, this will never work." Every time you verbalize a limit, you reinforce it. Conversely, when you start declaring that you are capable, that you deserve, that you are ready, you begin to create internal space to sustain new experiences. Breaking the upper limit problem requires more than knowledge. It demands emotional training, daily practices, and a constant decision not to be a prisoner of old internal pacts any longer. But this raises an even deeper question. Why, even with all these tools, do so many people remain trapped in this cycle of self-sabotage? In the next and final part, we will look at the true reason why breaking the limit is so difficult, the fear of one's own greatness. Because in the end, what frightens us the most is not failing. It's having to sustain an extraordinary life. And that is what we will talk about now. In the end, self-sabotage is not just the fear of failure. It is primarily the fear of success, the fear of shining too brightly, of being a nuisance, of being seen, of taking on a new standard of living and, with it, a new level of responsibility for oneself. Because once you accept your greatness, you can no longer hide behind excuses, old traumas, or the false humility you learned to wear as a shield. Gay Hendricks gets straight to the point. Are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution? This is not a rhetorical question. It is an invitation and a challenge. Because accepting that leap is putting an end to cycles of emotional, financial, and relational scarcity. It is committing, radically, to the most powerful and authentic version of yourself. And that requires abandoning, once and for all, the narrative of limitation that you have been telling yourself for years. Embracing your greatness is uncomfortable, because it confronts everything you were taught about modesty, about waiting your turn, about not wanting too much. But the truth is that your expansion does not diminish anyone. On the contrary, when you allow yourself to live in your zone of genius, you inspire others to do the same. You become a catalyst, a mirror of possibility. You literally transform into someone who carries light. And for that reason, you will inevitably disturb those who are still trapped in their own shadow. But that is the mission, and that is the choice. To remain in the comfort zone, controlled by an emotional thermostat programmed by old fears. Or to make the big leap, the ultimate leap, to a new level of love, abundance, creativity, and meaning. And not just visit that place for moments as you have done before, but to stay there. to feel it as your new inner home, to become a person who not only dreams of the extraordinary, but sustains it every day. Now that you understand how the upper limit problem works, the roots that sustain it, and the tools to overcome it, there is just one thing left: to decide. Not just to understand what blocks you, but to choose firmly to no longer self-sabotage. Because everything you desire is already possible, if you stop being the obstacle between you and it. If this video has provoked you, made you see patterns you hadn't noticed, comment below, "I am ready for my big leap." Say it out loud, write it down, make it conscious. And remember, the next video is essential. It will deepen your journey even further. Keep watching. You have already taken the first step. Now, go all the way.